do want to say, like, thank you for taking the time to come on with me today to talk about it, because they said you are the one in charge of Paleo Pals.
I am indeed. In fact, it's actually just me in charge. My
Oh.
husband volunteers his time, but it is my company.
Mhm.
I do all the packaging, shipping, fulfillment. I do all the designing. We manufacture with a small factory in China. And so I do all the designing, and then we go back and forth between there and the factory. But that's mostly because the infrastructure here is not really present for the type of work that we need done.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's a necessity. But
Yeah.
basically, it's all me.
How do you cope? Is there lots of coffee?
Well, actually, it's even a little deeper than that. Until this summer, I actually worked at the Morrison Natural History Museum
Oh.
as their lead paleontological interpreter. So I did fossil work, I did education work, I did maintenance of the grounds. I mean, I did everything because in paleontology, you don't get paid much, so you have to be a one-trick pony. And
It's
so
true. It's true.
yeah, so I wasn't able to maintain both that there and my company, but I've been for the past 4 years doing both, which was
Very
challenging.
nice. Very yeah, it's challenging, but you've made it work, and it seems like it's been very, very rewarding in a sense too. Because I mean, Paleopals, I mean, you guys have been doing so much in general. Like, I just take a look at the Instagram. I saw the Kickstarter and the Dinosaur fan group a little while ago, and and I was like, wow, these guys are very professional and very, very really got the stuff together here for this. Because, and it's also, I want to give much kudos to you, because you guys decided to do something, or you yourself decided to do something where it's not dinosaurs, and that must have taken a lot of thought process and a lot of, can we make this work if it's not dinosaurs?
Absolutely. So I came in from the science side first because I was doing paleontological science. Was working with Matthew T. Mossbrucker and Dr. Robert T. Bacher at the museum. So for one of the things that I kept seeing over and over again is you get kind of a surface level understanding of the paleontological sciences, or maybe I've seen Jurassic Park. And kind of the most frustrating comment we get is, I know everything about fossils and dinosaurs because I've seen Jurassic Park, which is, of course, really incongruent with the actual science itself.
Yeah, yeah.
And the other thing, too, it's kind of a big educational gap is we teach kids about prehistoric life through exclusively dinosaurs and really don't explore any deeper any other fossils. Maybe a trilobite here and there, but fundamentally, people's understanding of deep time is very limited. So my goal with Paleo Pals was seeing these educational gaps and saying, well, how do we approach this in a constructive way that can get people interested in the field and thinking about deep time and the significance of these animals as they've evolved through time in a much deeper way.
Yeah, I mean, you have the Diplocalus, you have all that sort of stuff like that, and you have prehistoric amphibian reptiles. Like, why not? Like, honestly, too, I do gotta agree with you on that side, because I used to. Have you heard the Southwest Paleontological Society?
Yes, yes.
I used to do with them a lot of stuff in the lab, and a lot of the stuff I worked on the vertebrae of a Brachiosaurus, but a lot of the stuff was ancient horse.
Well, I think I lost you.
That and things. Oh, okay. A lot of the things I used to work on was like ancient camels, ancient horses, vertebrates of so much stuff there that people don't really know about. They're like, is this a dinosaur? And we're like, no. And we were showing newbies around years ago when I was there, and they're like, well, why is it here? I'm like, oh, for lots of reasons, actually. And that's why, like, it's the perfect way to do it is through Paleo Pals. And you guys have the cartoonesques with them, the plushies, though. That's a brilliant idea. I don't know how you accomplished it, because I've seen people try plushies and it's never really worked. But you tried and it worked.
Well, a lot of it was also learning how to do the manufacturing process. So I actually do all the graphic design too. So I designed the website. I've done all the logos. I've done all the designs for all of the plush toys. So I kind of do all that by hand. But when you're working with a company, because of a factory specifically, one of the things you have to do is you have to make the design replicatable. So prototyping is actually the part that takes the longest, because especially I have a very small studio in Colorado, so it limits what I can do. So we spend anywhere between 6 to 9 months per plushie going back and forth with the factory until we can actually get a design that's both accurate and replicatable. And so that can be a big challenge. People always ask, why does it cost so much? A, we make them huge. and partially because we wanted the first two to be life size. But the other piece of it too is simply just the amount of time that it takes to do the initial design and prep work means that it's like a little bit more pricey, because sometimes we have to like really push hard to make sure that we're getting exactly the designs that we need, especially with things like the face sculpts and things like that that make the animal identifiable.
Yeah, and you want to make it scientifically accurate too. Like that's the
Absolutely.
thing. Like people are like, it's easy to make a cartoon dinosaur or prehistoric creature and be like, here's a product, like the dollar store or something like that. And you, I can't tell you how many Dilophosaurs have like the 40s sculpt of like a Tyrannosaur, but it's got like a little frill on top. I'm like, all right, well, or a little crest. And seeing it now, like seeing the scientific accuracy of it, you want to make sure it's accurate for people, because if people want to go do more research, say if like you get a plushie for a kid or a sticker or something like that, you know, you want to be able to look online and see like, oh, that's that. Like, oh, here's this. This was used for this as defense or eating or anything like that. Like that's, I liked it. I appreciate it. Like there's a lot of care obviously that have gone into it. And I mean, it was the overall like goal was to show people more of our history, of our prehistory. Was that like the huge goal of it?
Absolutely. That was fundamentally what our goal is. And that's still what our goal is today. So even with our previous plushies, a lot of people, you know, are kind of disappointed that we've run out of our Anomalocaris. But part of the reason we've run out is that we are going to be doing another iteration, because every time we do this, we try to increase the accuracy. And if the plushie stands the test of the fossils, then we will keep it where it is. But if it doesn't, then we push the design further. And being that the Anomalocaris was the first, we were the most, how do I put it, conservative with the reconstructed, because we weren't sure if we were going to get the spines in. The other issue you run into with any kind of toy is you need to make sure that a child can't choke on it. And those little, the pincers, you know, the arm, they're more like arms, but, you know, when people think of arthropod-like critter, they think of pincers. The problem with those is that a kid could stuff them down their throat, and we were concerned about those little tassels being a bit of a problem. But when the prototype actually came through and then production started, it became really clear that this was not nearly as much of an issue. But being that that was our first one, we had to be extra careful.
Yeah, you don't want a lawsuit within the first year, and it looks kind of bad, and it's very hard. And when it involves a kid, you're most likely going to lose. Like,
Exactly.
Oh, man. I did mention it before. I was on one of the cover. It was, I believe it's the Hyanodon, if I remember correctly.
Daeodon?
Yes, yes. Some I've worked in the field. There's some I'm still. That's why I love it, because I'm like, you guys are reminding me stuff that I've forgotten. It was named Dakota as well, like myself. And I'm like, oh my god, I saw it on the Kickstarter, and I'm like, whatever happens, we must be able to get this.
Awesome. Well, yeah, and actually that's going to be it's going to be the next plushie after Tex the Tylosaurus. So we're actually working on pre-production of Tex the Tylosaurus right now. We're about to start, because we've actually done our prepayments for the first iterations of Dakota the Daeodon. Tex is looking a little bit potato-y, so I'm not showing any pictures of those right now, because we're not quite ready on that face sculpt yet, and we're not going to start showing those prototypes until they're in a place that are less potato-y. But every plushie has a potato face, is the best way I can describe it.
Everybody starts as a caterpillar before you become the butterfly. You know, like
exactly.
Yeah, you're all a little plump. I mean, we're all a little plump these days. It's quarantine world. What do you want? You know what I mean? But that's cool, though. That's cool. I mean, do you have a certain type of type of species maybe that you're thinking about that you want to stick to more? Is it aquatic? Is it arthropods? Is it mammals or something along those lines? Or is it just trying to cover everything? Oh,
everything. So there are certain parameters for being eligible to be a paleo pal, and I actually get a lot of people asking, like, can you make this weird, obscure thing for me? The problem is that oftentimes if you have a favorite thing that's weird and obscure, maybe only one knuckle's been found of it, or maybe like one tiny little piece. A great example is even something like Titanoboa. We think of it as being this very like famous animal. It's known from like 3 vertebrae.
It's true.
So we actually don't know what Titanoboa looks like, really, and we really don't know what it ate. So like all those examples of it eating crocodiles, like we don't know. And our job at Paleo Pals is fundamentally to deal in the truth that we know right now, instead of just the speculatory stuff, because that's not really the science. It's fun, but it's also, it kind of guides people in the wrong direction. It's kind of the megalodon problem too, because we have a couple vertebra and we have billions of teeth. Not kidding you, billions of teeth.
It's
And we
true.
have no idea
It's
what this
true.
animal looks like.
Yeah,
Fundamentally,
and
just
that's
don't
that's
know.
the thing. I don't think people realize how many famous dinosaurs and prehistoric creatures are out there that we don't have that much of. And it's like
Absolutely.
we're oh, it's been insane to teach people that sort of thing like that. I mean, Titanoboa, that's the perfect example right there. Well, I mean,
Absolutely.
what was the big one? What was just it was just a little bit ago, and I watched a YouTube video, a science channel on it. Was direwolf? Direwolf just changed. Now it's
Yeah.
got its own classification. Like,
And that
who
one's
would've
crazy
thought?
too, because we have the morphology for it. So it's such a great example of morphology can be very misleading. Because that's the other thing too, is people think dire wolves are just a big wolf. They're not. They're just a wolf basically with a bigger skull. That's the only major
Yeah.
difference. And now with the genetic features, we now have even more evidence. And what's bizarre about it is that here's an animal that is functionally the same as a wolf, but is genetically not closely related to them.
Yeah.
That's such a cool example of convergence at work once again.
Did you see the kind of tangent? But did you see the paleo art for that? By the way, where it was it was kind of in the style of a Maine wolf versus the gray wolf on there. I was like,
Yeah.
that was beautiful.
That was
That's a
very
wallpaper.
I was joking with my husband that it's kind of like the American dingo.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's true. That's
Yeah.
very true. I like it. That's a bumper sticker right there. Direwolf, the American dingo.
We have fun. Maybe there's something to be done with that at some point too. And that's one that, like, now that it's a little bit weirder, Paleo Pals could potentially do something with that. And I'm not saying we will, but we could.
You
So
could.
I was going to mention what requirements must be met to be eligible as a Paleo Pal. One, we will not do dinosaurs. Plenty of other people are doing dinosaurs. Honestly, I think David Silva's work with Beasts of the Mesozoic is doing such a fantastic job. And he's collaborating with actually an artist I went to college with, Raul Ramos, who I have a lot of respect for as well. And they're doing such a grand job with dinosaurs, I don't really see any point. Also, you have Safari Ltd, you have all these other companies really filling that niche. So, and that's not really, once again, our company's motivation. We're trying to get people familiar with unfamiliar stuff. And then introduce, well, how does that apply to dinosaurs? But that's more of as a fringe thing. So since dinosaurs are basically covered, I think, in most respects, no dinosaurs. We may do pterosaurs. The other requirement is more than 80% of the body needs to be intact on the animal.
That's tough for pterosaurs.
That is tough for pterosaurs, exactly.
Ooh.
So one of the ones we've explored is using things like Rhamphorhynchus as a potential pterosaur in the future, but something that is intact, that's found in Lagerstätten, or something that at least has enough structure for us to create something that's based on the reality of that animal. So that's a big part of it. We like to alternate between vertebrates and invertebrates, back and forth and back and forth, although we're kind of breaking that tradition with Dakota, the Daedon, and there's some rationale behind that. I'm not going to mention which animal it was going to be, but one of our, there's another plush toy group that actually ended up taking one of the animals that was on our list. The next one on our list. So we're gonna have to delay that one, but that's fine. We're gonna do some adjustments to the original design, and that's okay. So we're doing 2 vertebrates in a row, but generally we like to even it out. We like things that are bony and unbony in equal serving sizes. We did some Burgess Shale stuff just because that's such a good starting point, especially because some of those animals are so charismatic. So those dinocaradids like Opabinia and Anomalocaris had to come first. They were also my personal favorites. So there's some selfish reasoning behind that.
I was wondering, I'm like, is there a goal? But it seems like those guys were the goal.
Yeah, initially, yeah.
Yeah.
And Diplocaulus too. Diplocaulus has a soft spot in my heart. He was a harder sell for people though, because he was less well known. Yeah, he's kind of a little bit more fringe, which was kind of surprising.
Yeah, but I mean, that's kind of mission complete, and the goal right there itself is like, oh, a little known, but then that's like, now you know, and now people want them. Like, check mark on an accomplishment there. But do you have any future ones? If you're working on them, I know all about NDAs. I work in the film and comic industry too. Trust me. Is there anything that's a goal that you may want to do in the future? Like, there's a certain animal that you want to do.
Not that I can mention.
Yep.
Not that I can mention. We got to go a few more through. Daedon, since it's been formally announced, is our next one. And we're going to do, I think, more with those special edition variants as well. Especially because we're trying to really expand kind of what we have to offer. Because I'm so small, the Kickstarters have been the most effective way to fund these projects. And then it's limited batches, and then re-up when we can re-up those plushie orders.
Okay.
So hopefully something will kind of break with a larger wholesale order, because if we start wholesaling on a larger scale, and that would be one of those things where a gift shop would actually just pay a huge lump sum to have, say, 500 plushies delivered to them, then that will expand our business quite a bit. But in the meantime, we're doing these smaller batch orders, and then that we hope will have a little bit more variation. And we're starting actually to go much faster. So we have 2 prototypes in the works in 1 year, which we've never done before. We did 2 Kickstarters in 1 year, which we've never done before. So we're definitely pushing.
If I remember correctly, goals were met. Goals were definitely met. If I remember seeing those too, because I went in, I'm like, let's go donate. And it was like, oh, it's over. I'm like, wait, what? And like, you guys had, the goal was what, 15,000, I believe, and you guys made 17 in the last one.
18.
18. Oh,
getting close to 19. The last day was just insane. Just shot right through the roof. So you never know how it's going to be. Kickstarter's always really rough for me because there are lots of preparation, and then basically for the next 30 days, I'm in a state of panic. And
how so? Like, is it like getting everything together?
It's more that you have to advertise a lot, and then you're dealing with a lot more comments and stuff, so you have to do more moderation. And then on top of that, people can pledge and then remove their pledges, so you'll watch your numbers bounce up and down and up and down and up and down.
Oh.
And that can be, especially in the middle of the Kickstarter, because it's like you have high donations at the start, and in the middle, it's like it can be really slow, and then people start bouncing up and down, and you're just like, oh my goodness. We actually didn't do too bad this time because we had that amazing corner up at the top, and we knew we were going to surpass Diplocaulus. Once again, Diplocaulus was the harder sell. People love their Cambrian stuff.
It surprises me Diplocaulus was a sell. Like, we said it was an easier sell or harder sell?
Harder sell, yeah. A little bit of a harder sell.
It surprises me on that one because it's like, it's unique. Like, they're all unique, and it's one of those things where you don't get things like it. That's why, like, when you say it's a harder sell, it blows my mind away. Like, how? Who's not paying attention to history and uniqueness in animals? Like, baffles me.
Well, and I think that's the thing, is that he's about become as popular as our Anomalocaris, but it took time. It just was more of that familiarization for people, and I think he's going to come back. Honestly, out of all of our plushies, he's the cutest so far. We made him so flubby and fun, and out of all the animals too that we've done, he's probably one of the strangest. Because he's basically he's a bumpy skinned amphibian, so he's not slimy, and he's not related to frogs and salamanders. He's about as distant from them as you are, which is a weird thing to think about. That was pretending to be a lungfish. It was functionally a lungfish. It was in these estivation burrows for months in the middle of the desert. And the weird thing about these guys is that when the climate gets wetter in those regions, the Diplocaulus disappear.
They are all
very weird.
They leave me for a loss of words at some points because there's so many of them that are like, what was it? The other day, I remember I broke someone's mind, and I said, Dimetrodon's not a dinosaur, right? And they're like, what? Like, yeah. Well, I don't know where you were in biology, history, and every class. Where were you guys? They're like, what? I'm like, yeah, we're more closely related to Dimetrodon than Dimetrodon is to dinosaurs, and they were just, or Dimetrodon is to birds, and they were just fathomed by it. And I'm like, yeah, welcome to science. Don't know what to tell you.
Absolutely love the fun.
Is Dimetrodon one? That could be one. I think it may be.
So we as I said, Paleozoic Pals, which is through PRI. They've done a Dimetrodon. So we try to do ones that haven't been done yet. And once again, as much as I love Dimetrodon, it is one that's also classically made as toys. Like, everyone's as a kid has had a Dimetrodon, which was my favorite, honestly. When I was a child, I had a Dimetrodon that I played with relentlessly. So unfortunately, Dimetrodon probably won't be on our list, but I do have a soft spot for Dimetrodon, and make a great pairing, of course, for Dusty, especially because we know that Dimetrodon ate those guys. So
it's true. Oh, that would be fun. So I'm curious though, like how long have you actually been going on with Paleo Pals? Because you've got all this work and you've got all the funding and you've been doing all of this to say the least. But how long have you been going at it?
Gosh, I started Paleo Pals before it was officially a brand back in 2014. So
That's a while.
yeah, so we started actually posting some of our early designs onto places like DeviantArt kind of early. I had just graduated college, had actually been working in paleo art for a while, and I was doing science as well while I was still in school. I didn't take any breaks. I just jumped right into that career. Mm-hmm. So I was actually doing museum work while I was still in college as well. And it became very clear to me that I needed to diversify what I was making, because it's really hard to sell prints as your only thing, you know?
Yeah, I mean, because you have so much other competition when it comes to prints, so much in every different niche.
And only so many walls. People only have so many walls. They're going to want to save that space for something really special. So I've done everything from botanical illustration. I was doing anything that's natural science. I was basically doing, and I just thought to myself, you know, maybe I should start doing something simple like pins. So when I did my graduation show, I actually had pins as part of my graduation portfolio, and then that was pretty successful. So we moved on to the next thing, and then the next thing, and then I'd always had a passion for toy design. That's what I'd always wanted to do. But breaking into it's challenging because it requires a lot of upfront capital.
Oh, yeah.
And that's when Kickstarter was really taking off, and it kind of was one of those things where I went, aha, you know, this is the way to do it. And
yeah,
we did it. It was
yeah, you're one of the success stories because, I mean, you and I have probably seen it. You more so because you're on Kickstarter as much. How many people are like, we're doing a toy, we're going to do a toy, we're going to do a toy, and it never really goes through on toys, like, because toys are tough. They're tough. Yeah. People think it's easy to get into, like David Silva. I talked to him the other day actually, and we were talking about, and it's tough. Like, I know friends of mine who work in the toy industry, and they're designers, and it's so, even just to be a designer, a toy designer at like Hasbro or Mattel or anything like that. Yeah. Insane amount of work.
It is, and it's and actually one of the reasons I didn't end up approaching a larger company and decided to just make my own was that the margins are so slim. So even at the price point that we're selling our toys, we don't really make a lot of money back on those toys. It goes right back into running the business. So where we make our money is actually, ironically, the pins and the stickers and those smaller items, because they have a better price mark. But the toys instead kind of push the goals of the company forward, which is that education side. Yeah. So also, who doesn't want to have something to hug that's, you know,
it's true,
huge prehistoric plushie. So we kind of do the plushies more as the public service announcement.
That's good. Yeah. That is good. That's, I mean, and it's an easier sell too, to be like, here is our creature that we have all this stuff on, but here's a perfect example. Here's a 3D version of it, but you can get them on a print, you can get them on a pin, you can get them on. Absolutely. By the way, Keep Paleontology Weird is a bumper sticker that's on my shopping cart at you guys' store. That's really one. I saw, like, I don't often get bumper stickers. I have zero. And I've often told myself, even growing up, like, yeah, I don't really want a bumper sticker. But I saw that, like, that's mine. I'm going to get one, and that's going to be the one bumper sticker I have.
It's such a good one, too. And we like to, with the, my husband is particularly good at the wordplay stuff, so we bounce off funny ideas and just, like, see if they're going to work or not. And those bumper stickers are kind of the creme de la creme of our better wordplay, and also playing off of every other bumper sticker, too, you know?
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like playing off the stereotypes, which I just find hilarious. I have the Anomalocaris as my co-pilot one on my car.
And it catches attention too. Because people are like, what is that? And it's like, well, science. Welcome to our welcome.
Yeah. Oh, I don't mean to interrupt, but I have a funny story about that. I was on my honeymoon with my husband, and we were in Utah, and we literally found a car covered in my stickers. And
no,
where you know you've made it when you find a car covered in the stickers that you made, and that's pretty rewarding.
Did you guys find the car owner and be like, hey, or like take a picture of it or anything?
I think my husband might have a picture somewhere, but I think we were on our honeymoon, so we were kind of wanting to just like do our own thing at the time. But it was still very cool. That's
an extra candle in a honeymoon cake right there.
Like, absolutely, yeah.
Oh, I'd cry. Like, as a comic book writer too, on the side, I write so many books, and I get like a review and people are like, hey, I read your book, or it's, a thing on the, like, 'cause it's online only right now. So people are like, hey, and I send a picture. Every time a little bit of a tear comes down. You're like, you did good, kid. You did.
It's when you made it, yeah. And the other thing too is Paleo is such a small community. Everyone knows each other, so it's like I correspond regularly with people who you think of these people as being heavy hitters, but like in the end, they're just there's people there's colleagues and sometimes friends.
Yeah, that's why I really miss the times at SPS and the Fossil Lab, like volunteering there. I really do. I haven't done it in a while because I was working in film and then comics for such a long time. I wasn't able to make time, and then day job in general, and then family, friends, and we're like, there's not enough time in a year, as you know. And so it's one of those things like, I want to go back, and then everything's shut down. It's just a madness. But how is it? Is the shutdown? Well, I say shutdown. We're kind of out of it, kind of not, depending on where you're at. Has New World era like been good? Has it, like, people being home and wanting to see stuff more online? Has it been good for Paleo Pals? Because I've seen a lot of people online businesses have been doing pretty good.
I'd say, yeah, absolutely. Paleo Pals has actually been better. We kind of are a source of escapism for people. Also, like, I mean, I'm gonna kind of admit something. I was back in March. I actually did catch it, and I've been. Yeah, and I was very ill. I almost didn't make it. So that was part of the executive decision that I needed to do just one thing. And that's why we've been expanding so much. But it meant that Paleo Pals had to be shut down for a while, and we had to wait for everything to, be sterilized. It was like a whole thing. So that was part of the reason why we had to close shop for a bit. But when we returned, things were better, definitely better.
Are you okay now, though? Question, because that's like at least semi. I know.
Yeah, I'm not where I was before. It's definitely been a life-changing experience. So there's things I'm not as able to do, but my creative juices really started flowing a bunch more afterwards. And I think that's something when you kind of realize what's important and like what you want to do with your life trajectory, because you have to kind of figure that out in those situations. And that that definitely pushed me in that direction. So in some ways, it's been really actually quite good, because it was a moment of clarity about what I need to be doing and why Paleo Pals is important, especially in a world where science is absolutely needed, and we can see the results of that happening just in front of us.
Yeah, that's why. I mean, I did Dino Times when I was in high school. It was like it was a project thing and whatnot, and I was talking to my girlfriend, and I was talking to friends of mine in the science field. I mean, even my doctor, when I work at an animal hospital, like, you see the neglection in science there. And then with people working at a reptile sanctuary,
especially
and I worked at a zoo for 4 years as well. And I didn't Fossil Lab, like, there it is. And I just, in New World era that we're in right now, I was like, you know what? We need more science. And what better way, kind of in the like-minded here, like, what better way than paleo? Because like it's the best way to introduce people to science, and we need more of it. That's why I brought back the show, and I want to have people on like you guys, and I'm doing coverage of prehistoric creatures, whether dinosaurs or not. Like, science is much needed, and I think paleo is the gateway drug, one could say, to get into more science.
Well, and how awesome is it that we're in literally a field that covers all fields of science? It's physics, it's chemistry, it's forensic pathology. It's I mean, it's
geology.
So
shit, you got that too. You got geology in there. You got so evolution. You got stuff connected to modern day animals. Like, we were talking dire wolves and gray wolves, like connected to that. Like, it's everything around you. Paleobotany. I have a friend of mine. I've talked to her in a long time, but she did paleobotany, really big into it. That affects everything now too. That 100% affects everything as well. It's nuts to me. It's absolutely insane. But I never thought about it that way before, and you're absolutely right. You really are. Yeah.
And how else to, like, how better too, because it's interesting too. And then the other thing that's nice about it too, from like a perspective of conservation and just understanding biology and ecosystems now, a lot of the critters that exist now are just as weird as the ones in the past.
If not weirder, some of them.
Some of them,
honest. Yeah, some of them.
Some of those siphonophores are freaking mad crazy. So things like that. So like I think about that too, that Paleo Pals is like, in some ways, actually, some of our weirdos are not nearly as weird as some of the things we still have now. And like, what a great way to get people going, well, here's something I never thought about. Here's a critter I never thought about. Here's an ecosystem I never thought about.
Yeah, there was a close relative of a salamander that we had in, and I'm drawn a blank. And it was we do tours still, and whatnot, and do classes because trying to teach science at the sanctuary and such. And we got a baby in. It's around. I don't even know if I can get it on camera of how small he is. He's so small, but he's orange top, green bottom. I could not remember what species he is, but you never see him. So I look at the container. It's like a shoebox size, terrarium for him, and it's insane. And it's got all like the electrical components going in for heat and lamp. And they're like, oh yeah. And when you finally find him, when he's so small, it's just superbly bright color. And people are like, that exists. I'm like, yeah, that exists. That does exist. Or working with an anaconda. Let me tell you, if you want to blow people's minds, I see them in person. Those are fun. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Though. I mean, shoot, go to an aquarium. Look how many weird things are in there. I love going to the upside down jellyfish. Still around. Like that's a thing too. Like, yeah.
I've always joked that like one of this is kind of a goofy thing. One of the issues with cryptozoology is that it's fundamentally uncreative.
Yeah.
So like I always joke like oh yeah, sea monsters are real. We have these amazing colossal squid with literally teeth on their suckers. You have animals like a frilled shark that basically looks like a Nessie, but people just they want something simple. They want their plesiosaur. They want their humanoid ape thing. Of whatever persuasion.
Yeah, I always thought that was what was the big ape that King Kong's based on?
Sasquatch and Yeti are the two that come to my mind.
Yeah. Oh no, the real one that was alive.
Oh, the Gigantopithecus, is that the guy? I'm not into the paleoanthropology, so. Yeah,
that one. Neither am I on that one. That one only pops up every now and then for me and stuff. I see it like in a game or something along those lines. I'm like, hey, good on you. But yeah, that one I keep thinking. I just like, oh, that's that then. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, never mind.
Yeah.
Never mind. Well, I tried.
Once again, it's that thing of like, what's cool about like the real world is that everything is so much weirder than you ever would have expected. Like we're finding out that so many animals had venom we didn't know. We now know that shrews have venom, some of them at least. And we found venomous toads that actually can bite you or spray venom at you, and that's all new. I mean, there's always something that's just the other shoe's going to drop on, and it kind of makes the real world actually far more interesting than anything I could come up with in my head. It's one of the reasons I love paleo art so much.
Oh my god. If I get bored sometimes, I go on Instagram and I do #paleo art and just scroll through. It blows me away. Some people and especially the people there's I want to make sure I get the name right. I do not have the phone around me. It was Mother of Dinosaurs, I think, on Instagram. Have you seen her?
I'm sure I have. I tend to. This is kind of a silly thing about paleo art with me, is that I very rarely actually look at other people's paleo art.
Oh, really?
And it's for a very particular reason. I actually, my buddy Dennis, who's a paleo sculptor, this was his pro tip, is work from the bones and tissues themselves. Don't look at other people's work, because the problem is that we habitually like to replicate what we've seen before. And then that means you're going to make the same mistakes over and over and over again. And that's why you see T-Rex basically being illustrated the same way by everybody over and over and over again.
Oh my god, yeah. When every now and then they're like, we made an Albertosaurus. Like David, he's like, here's this, and it's Albertosaurus. We're doing Utah around. It's like, oh thank God, it actually looks it. It's like, beautiful, beautiful. Oh.
I love Tyrannosaurs. They're so gangly. They look like ballerina dancers, except for T-Rex, which is the oddball in the group.
Yeah. And you know what one I love for some unknown reason? Guanlon.
Say that again?
Oh, it's one that I love is Guanlon.
Oh yeah, such a beautiful animal.
Yeah, like it is right. It's beautiful. Yeah. Like and people like, oh, it's nuts to me. Absolutely nuts. And you know what? I do appreciate a non-dinosaur, but I gotta mention the Arizona State dinosaur, Dilophosaurus, the scientifically accurate one. Mm-hmm. Want to say, beautiful creature, absolutely big, beautiful.
And I love some of the early dinosaurs' snaggle teeth. They're just so cute.
Yes.
And people always forget about the snaggle teeth, especially with some of the more primitive guys.
It's true. It's very true. It's very true. Well, I do want to say, I'm coming to the end here because I don't want to take too much of your time, but now, obviously, we've done a bit of promoting for you in the episode one up, but where can people find you or any upcoming events, things, or upcoming things at the shop and whatnot, maybe new things? Is promote away, promote away.
Absolutely. So we're going to be probably right now we're settling after the Kickstarter because the first month or so after the Kickstarter is always exhausting because it's going through all the logistics, making sure all the orders are going through. But there's a lot of cool stuff too. So we're getting those exclusive primordial pins finished. Unfortunately, for people who are new to Paleo Pals, none of the exclusives will be available to you because they're only going to be Kickstarter exclusive. So
Which makes sense.
It's that nice little bonus for people. So we're finishing up production on those guys. I literally got samples in an hour ago. Our albino Tex the Tylosaurus pins. So that's really exciting. When it comes to new products, probably what I'm going to be working on is working on that nice logo for Dakota the Daedon. So there's going to be some products for her coming out, and we're going to add an additional Tex sticker. We're getting those orders finalized as well for stickers. So that's going to be the little guy, like the little computer sticker, is going to be coming out soon. So excited about that. Just waiting on those last few surveys because we got to make sure we got all our ducks in a row before we do our orders. So that's kind of the next thing. And then I need to start coming up with some really cool ideas for Dakota because she's going to look fabulous. I had so much fun with her.
When I saw that artwork, I'm like, you know what? It's one, beautiful, two, an animal you never really see. I don't think really in anything. There's a new Prehistoric Kingdom game coming out, and that's it. And I saw she was in a trailer or like this teaser thing, like the species, like, oh, that's cool. I mean, and three, like the artwork, this a concept work that you put out there, beautiful, like beautiful. It's one. I don't care if someone gets a picture of me holding it while I'm sleeping. I don't get. My girlfriend will most likely steal it anyway. I love her to death, but she'll be like, it's mine now. Yeah.
It can be your pillow, right? And that's also one of the things we wanted to do is we wanted to have a certain quality point where technically you could leave it on your bed as a pillow and no one would question it.
It's fair. I mean, you can kind of see stuff already in my studio / room. So yeah, the home studio these days. But yeah, where can people find you? A website, social media, all the stuff like that?
Absolutely. So we work through PaleoPalsToys.com. So we do all of our work through a Square shop right now because it's very simple. But that's what we're doing right now. And then we have Instagram, which is _pals. We have a Twitter as well, and you'll recognize us. We have that logo with the Anomalocaris on it. He's kind of our poster child since that was our first.
And he's adorable. It's very true. Great. Well, thank you for coming on to the show, though. This has been a blast to have you on here and get kind of more behind the scenes on Paleo Pals because I really wanted to get and talk about science too, which is nice. It's very fresh break. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Any final words to the people out there watching?
Oh, absolutely. Just keep curious, keep exploring. There's always way cool things out there. And 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 10 years, you're going to find out that everything's even weirder than you thought. And that's the nature of science. Keeps it exciting.
I love it. Well, I will let you know when the episode does come out, too. Thank you again.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
Of course. You have a good day, okay?
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.